As Israel refuses to give up on its war against Islamist Hamas terror, its top ally, the United States, seems to be working overtime to ensure a ceasefire is reached immediately so as to end the hostilities between the two warring sides. By expressing its keenness to support a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, the Biden administration is helping Hamas. Hamas does not give two hoots about civilians in Gaza. They are mere cattle for Hamas. As such, if they suffer as collateral in the ongoing hostilities, Hamas couldn't care less. However, other international powers seem to care about civilians. And truth be told, civilians must not suffer in a war between Israel and Hamas. Hamas realizes that it can use civilians in the Gaza Strip to get itself a juicy ceasefire deal, and by pushing for a ceasefire, Joe Biden is aiding Hamas in its endeavor to destroy Israel. The onus is on Israel to see through such devious plans and not fall for them, and our guess is that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not about to fall for a ceasefire anytime soon. Hi and welcome, this is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Sanbir Ranhotra, and in this video we will talk about why the Biden administration is pushing for a pro-Hamas ceasefire. As the Israel-Gaza conflict escalates, Hamas is suffering a lot of damage. In an ideal world, Hamas should come pleading for a ceasefire, but US President Joe Biden is rather pushing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop retaliation. Palestine, in turn, is eyeing a major opportunity here and seeking some major concessions from the Jewish nation as a precondition for any ceasefire. On Sunday, the US ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, told the UNSC that the US was ready to offer support should the parties, that is Israel and Hamas, seek a ceasefire. On the same day, Palestinian ambassador to Algeria, Amin Makboul, sought suspension of Israeli settlement activities as a necessary precondition for a ceasefire. Biden administration's policies are clearly emboldening the Palestinians here. Make no mistake, Israel has a big advantage in the ongoing fighting and Hamas has taken serious pushback. The Israel Defense Forces have managed to successfully target and eliminate the top Hamas leadership. But at the end of the day, Washington is Israel's top ally. So, when the Biden administration pushes for a ceasefire, Palestinian leaders do feel emboldened. Amin Makboul, for instance, said, "Whenever an escalation occurs in Palestine and a new aggression is launched by the Israeli occupation, some international powers, led by the US administration and European parties, rush to request the situation to be calmed." He elaborated, "But in the conditions we are living in now, the calm must have a price, because the party which provoked it was the Zionist enemy, that is Israel, with its aggression against Jerusalem, allowing the settlers to enter the Al-Aqsa Mosque courtyards and the attempt to confiscate houses in Sheikh Jarrah." The Palestinian ambassador demanded specific decisions and measures related to Jerusalem in the first instance and cessation of Israeli settlement activities. Makboul was therefore making a reference to Jewish settlements in the West Bank. So, despite the mounting death toll in Gaza, Palestine wants to change the status quo. It is behaving as if it is negotiating from a position of strength. Meanwhile, Biden spoke to Netanyahu on Monday. The US president directly pushed Israel for a ceasefire this time around. A White House readout of the telephonic conversation between the two leaders stated the president expressed his support for a ceasefire and discussed US engagement with Egypt and other partners towards that end. In his telephonic conversation with Netanyahu, Biden did reiterate his firm support for Israel's right to defend itself against indiscriminate rocket attacks. But the big message going across was American support for a ceasefire. This again will make Palestinian leadership and Hamas believe that the US and Israel are the ones looking for a ceasefire. The Palestinian leadership doesn't really care about civilians in Gaza and is ready to sacrifice more of them provided it can negotiate any concessions out of Israel before a ceasefire is agreed upon. Far-left Democrats and the anti-Semitic lobby in the Democratic Party is constantly nudging Biden to criticize Israeli retaliation against Hamas. Yet, Biden seems to have found a middle path by stopping well short of criticizing Israel but still pressing for a ceasefire. However, even if this works for Palestine and Hamas, which will now try to put a big price on any ceasefire proposal and make difficult demands for ceasing the Israel-Gaza hostilities,